project my world at night to a place in the past we've been cast out of. Oh, now we're back in the fight. We're back on the train. Oh, back on the chain gang.
I kind of had to. Anyway, it's Ask Her, Tell Me Anything. The phone number is the important thing. 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. I misspoke. You are the important thing. The phone number is just a ramp for you to get here. You are the important thing. So yeah, as I said, you might have heard me say this before the news. It's not required that we talk about yesterday. It really isn't. But there's, in fact, let me just tell you something. I mean, right up to, I think, maybe a second before the opening music, this Pretenders song started, the maestro Dylan Reyes, our technical producer, and I were talking about musical bridges. We were, and we could have talked another 10 minutes if there hadn't been this, nuisance of a show that we had to do. So, there are other things to talk about on any given day. Let me just say that, yes, it's Ask Her, Tell Me Anything. I don't have to say anything. We got a lot of people calling up. They're waiting to talk. What am I running my pie hole for? All right, here goes. Here we go. Here we go to Kimberly on Long Island. Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. I loved your offer to not talk about the inauguration, and it matches what I did yesterday, because I told myself that my family and I were only celebrating MLK Day. Mm-hmm. And I tried to not watch one morsel of it. But when I was out at a store or when I was out somewhere visiting people, there were TVs, and I just kept turning away from them.
Yeah, you got to contact low.
But avoidance doesn't work, because when I woke up this morning, I have a little insomnia. And when I woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and then I read the thing about the gender pronouncement, which I guess I would call the attack on every part of our bodies, of all men, women, transgender, and any human being. I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. I can't believe how fast and how quick that Trump and his cronies, I don't say his name usually, the orange one and his cronies have done things. It's just horrifying to me. I can't believe that everyone doesn't see how historical it is.
Well, I mean, let me just say a couple of things here. I think one conversation that you are beginning, and it's a conversation we'll need to get at many times over the next year or more, is, how do you strike a balance? How do you strike a balance between, you don't want to be a total ostrich. I mean, I did kind of the same thing that you did yesterday, and I'm a journalist. I'm really supposed to run towards the fire with my notebook, but I did the same thing. I said, I will inform myself about it elaborately, but I don't have to do it on his time. I don't have to do it on his clock. I don't have to do it all live. I can find out what happened. I can watch the stuff I need to watch. And I think also you should understand that particular executive order is part of flooding the zone, right? The part of the plan was, we're just going to announce so many different things here in the first 24 to 48 hours that no one thing will stand out, that you can't get a defense organized around one particular thing because there's so many things. And there's becomes a kind of snow blindness to it all.
Oh, I absolutely know that that's what he does. And the thing is, it's so interesting because yesterday I was at a rally at a train station trying to figure out with other people, what are we going to do going forward? And the thing that I felt compelled to go to the front and speak was, I was like, oh my gosh, I heard that Trump's going after the immigrants and he's going after them in Chicago. Little did I know that he was also going after me. He was going after women and immigrants and everybody. But I'll tell you, some people could see the writing, because in a couple of groups I went to and in that protest, everybody specifically said, here's a person who's from the immigration groups, here's a person from transgender rights groups, here's a person from women's groups, here's a person from education, and we're all going to have to stick together. So when he comes after one, he comes after all. But maybe they knew he was coming after all at once.
Yeah, and I do think, once again, there is some kind of healthy medium that we have to figure out. that is, as I say, nobody should be an ostrich. Everybody should be alert to what's happening and knowledgeable about it and willing to take stands against things that strike them as appalling. But you don't want to be dominated by it either, and you want your own health, your own mental health and your own physical health to be important. I mean, I don't know. I posted up on Facebook yesterday Timothy Snyder's 20 things to do or 20 ways to think about being on the cusp of tyranny. And there are some, pretty important exhortations there. But I think another part of it is, make sure you're going for a walk, that you're outside and the sun's hitting your face, and make sure you're listening to some beautiful music, or we're about to hear from somebody who looked at some paintings. Do the things that recharge your battery. Otherwise,
yes, and it's also because what we're experiencing is kind of like the stages of grief. The other part of that is to realize that, like, I want to fix things all the time, but to realize that I called one of my friends who has someone in their family who's transgender, and they weren't ready to do anything. They're like, Trump said he was going to do it, and he did it, and that's it. And that's what they have to feel. So the thing is, I know I have to take mental health breaks. That's why I listened to the show before this. That was about a movie.
Good.
And then the second thing is, too, that it helps you to forgive everybody else, because everyone has to do the thing they have to do. So I heard people proposing, just do charity, just do local, just take care of the people that need taken care of. So, I think we have to all decide what to do, and everybody's going to decide at a different time. But also about the being an ostrich, I had said something at the beginning to some of my friends, like, I wish there was a way to make a pod of people that share Trump news, and only one person has to listen to it, and they just tap you on the shoulder and tell you if there's something that you have to know about. And I found that at least there's one media person group that's doing that. So I think it's called Vox or something. But what they're doing is they're making a news service where Trump news is going to be one sentence, not the outrage against him, not anything that he wanted to say with descriptors, just one sentence to tell you the reality of what happened. So, I think we're all going to have to figure out how to filter the information and think about it and know about it and do it when it's the time. Yeah,
you don't want to get stuck in, you don't want to get stuck in fight or flight mode all the time. You'll have adrenal glands the size of cantaloupes if you do that. And so, there's got to be some downtime, some time away. You got to pick your spots. I think some of the things that you just mentioned, thinking about this on a very local basis, thinking about this on a very personal basis. Who needs help right now? How can I give meaningful help? What can I do today that would be helpful without it taking over my entire day? I think all of that's great. When we talked to a couple of different people over the course of the election who really had looked at how people respond to autocracies, how people respond to tyranny. I'm not saying we have that right now, but we have the warning signs that you have to watch. But the word hope kept coming up. You got to have hope. You got to feel like you have hope, and you got to feel like you're your own self. You're the real person that you always. You are the authentic Kimberly. You're not a different kind of Kimberly living in this strange new bizarro planet. So I think you're going to be fine, though, Kimberly. I have a lot of confidence. All right, we'll move along here. I know if somebody calls up about, the poetry of John Dryden or something, that'd be fine. But I also get people need to talk. And so here's Daniel. Daniel's up next to talk. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, nice to meet you. How are you?
Just fine.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I have this thing about the inauguration that I want to talk about too, and I wanted to remind everybody, I guess, or to remind myself that history. I try to put my head in the sand as well. And somebody mentioned today that, oh, did you watch the inauguration yesterday? Or did you hear so and so perform? Or oh, Nelly said something about how it wasn't about for this country or whatever. And after things like this happen, I kind of revert to something that Dave Chappelle said after the towers fell in 9/11. He was watching TV. He was scared. He was scared to death. And we're going to put Ja Rule on the phone. And he's like, why do I want to hear about Ja Rule? What did Ja Rule have to say about this when, I'm scared. I don't want to dance. But anyway, find your own truth. And this whole thing, it's going to be hard not to be cynical when we know what happened in January 6th, the phone calls to the autocrats. And I don't know, I've become very cynical. And I want to thank you for your show and how you drop little morsels of news, how we can go. And you got me through COVID and the first inauguration. So I don't know. Thanks for listening, man.
Yeah, hang in there, Daniel. And we're going to all get together we're all going to get through this together as well. And yeah, I mean, let me just say a little bit before I go to Tom and William and Tracy. Even this week, I'll tell you some things that we're doing. We are doing a show tomorrow with the philosopher Agnes Callard, who's been with us before, it's sort of nominally about Socrates. Her new book is called Open Socrates, but it's really about how to develop a philosophical approach to life, how to figure out what your philosophical approach to life is. And, you know, when you think about Socrates and you think about sort of how things wound up for him, you understand that there was probably a fair amount of speaking truth to power way back in those days as well. So this is not going to be a show about Trump or 2025 in America or anything like that, but we hope we drop a couple of other tools into your toolbox through a show like that. We're also going to record a show Thursday that will run Friday about the artist Randy Newman. And as I prepare for that show, I'm just aware of the fact that Newman from the very beginning thought, I've got to talk about real aspects of power imbalances and ugliness and systemic bullying and self-righteousness and inappropriate levels of self-congratulation. And I'll do it all. I'll do it all. I'll pretend to be those people. I'll be an unreliable narrator in my own songs. I think talking about Randy Newman at a time like this is very, very appropriate. But, you know, we're going to talk about Randy Newman. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't get to be on our Randy Newman show. Unfortunately, Randy Newman doesn't get to be on our Randy Newman show either, unless he calls in. And he could call in today. Randy, if you're out there, 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. Let's go to Tom. I'm just going to go down the line here. It's Tom in Manchester. Hi, Tom. You're on the air.
Yeah, how you doing?
Okay.
Yeah, back again. Just two things quickly. I just heard a speech yesterday by President-elect in 47, but he hasn't really changed much because as a person of color, he said we're in a colorblind society. No, we're not, because his father wouldn't sell the blacks a long time ago apartments, and they had to be taken to court. And I guess it was proven that movie, The Apprentice, that came out last summer, that he wanted to be not shown. But we're into some tough times there, but we got to pull together as Americans, no matter what ethnic background, and that diversity, I think, is important. That can bring strength to this country, not take away. And I wish he would stop, blaming immigrants of color south of the border. He doesn't talk about, the Canadian border, or if you're from Europe or Asian countries, if you overstayed your visa. And it's such a double standard with him. But he hasn't really changed. The leopard doesn't change spots. And I think he's still, xenophobic, racist or Eurocentric bully, and not a nice guy.
But enough about Elon Musk. What did you think of Trump yesterday? I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Tom. Thanks for your call. You're always such a great caller. I do appreciate it. All right. I'm just going fast because we have a lot of people calling in. A lot of people have things they need to get off their chests. Here is William in Middletown. Tracy from West Hartford is next. Hi, William. You're on the air.
Hi. Thanks. The counterpoint to ugliness is beauty and wisdom and hope, as you were saying. And yesterday I decided to immerse myself first in beauty. And I heard that there was a Vincent van Gogh show going on somewhere in America. And, of course, I'm not going to be able to go to it. So I went and got a book of his paintings. And I just said, these are so beautiful. And I found out when I was reading the book that he couldn't afford to hire models, so that's why he did so many self-portraits. The other thing I wanted to mention is every year on Martin Luther King's Day, I am always reminded on the brilliance of his speeches. And I'm just going to do a quote real quick here. He says, "Use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, who I want to be, and what I can do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself." And I just said, that guy is brilliant. He should be declared a saint. But anyway, so that's how I counterpointed.
Well, I think I think beauty is really important. I feel very much the same way. For me, it typically is music, immersing myself in music. Once again, you don't want to turn away from things that are important. You want to be alert and aware. But to be alert and aware, I don't know. This may not work very well because I'm pretty sure I never actually played a Pac-Man game. But my recollection is that Pac-Man needs to eat energy dots to keep going. And that's kind of what we have to do too. We have to eat energy dots so we can keep going. And sometimes those energy dots are exactly as William describes it. He put it very well, that you give yourself energy by loving things. Loving things does not take away your energy. It gives you energy. So whatever it is that you love it. Love it, feed yourself with it, and you'll have the energy to do and say what needs to be done and said. All right, so we'll go to Tracy as I promised. Hi, you have the floor, Tracy.
Hello. So yesterday, I realized that one of the joys of a day off for me is that I get to watch The Price is Right. And I knew that wasn't going to happen because people were working up to the inauguration. I tried to watch the inauguration. I got through about 6 minutes and couldn't take it anymore. So I went and watched a movie, and I did some stuff around the house. And I went back later to try to watch the evening news, and then Jeopardy! It was still on. Mm-hmm. Has that ever happened before? It's on all day long? I've never experienced that.
Well, one thing about it was structured to eat up a lot of time and attention. He gave actually a total of 4 speeches yesterday. Which is unusual. So, it's interesting because Trump talks about how he hates the press. I mean, he talks a big anti-press kind of game, and he's going to crack down. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. But the truth is, he still needs the press a lot. I mean, emotionally, psychologically, he needs to be in the press. He cares a lot. Even when he was signing some of those executive orders and stuff, he kept getting distracted and answering questions from reporters because he likes to talk to the press. He feels as though that's one of the ways that he exists. He exists if he's getting covered. So, yeah, he'll create an event that goes on and on and on and has a lot of things to point cameras at and a lot of noises to write down on paper. And I don't know how out of the ordinary. It did seem excessive. But the one thing I will say, Tracy, is from a certain point of view, when you look at the fact that the 3 richest men in the world were sitting in the front row ahead of the cabinet, which is sitting in the second row, it is The Price is Right. The Price is Right is happening. You were watching The Price is Right. It just didn't look the way it usually looks. So
no Drew Carey, that's all.
Yeah, no Drew Carey. Sorry about that. All right, so I think that everyone, by everyone I mean the control room, would be happy if we took a little break right now. We've got Peter, we've got Rick, we've got you if you call 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR.
Cry, baby, cry, baby, cry, baby. Gonna feel what you feel, the pain is real. Cry, baby, cry, baby, cry, baby, cry.
Jesus, he never done a thing for me. I ain't pretty like my sister, smart like my dad, but good like my mama. There's money that I love. There's money that I love.
It's like Tracy and I were saying. Yesterday, The Price is Right was on all day long. It just looked different. All right, so our number 888-720-9677. I'll do it slower and more alphanumerically. 888-720-WNPR. And let's start with Rick in Newington. Then we got Peter in East Hampton, Long Island. But Rick, you're up first. Hi, Rick.
Hey, Colin, how are you?
Good.
I loved your show a few months ago about Cassandra.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I've been just thinking about the role of both Hillary and then Kamala playing that role of Cassandra and the large swath of the population who didn't heed the warning.
Yeah, I mean, just to bring people up to speed here or jog their memories a little bit, Cassandra is a Trojan princess who does prophecies, and she accurately predicts what's about to happen, and nobody pays any attention to her. So Cassandra has become a term now for someone who makes accurate predictions that are ignored. And yeah, I mean, I think there's some of that there, and you'll hear that now. I mean, you'll hear people now will sort of condemn those who are accurately pointing to some of the stuff that happened yesterday and saying, this should worry you. Attempts are just being made all the time to marginalize them, even in the last 24 hours. So,
Right.
So yeah. But I think it's an apt analogy, and I thank you for making it and kind of including our work in your analogy. All right, here's with a very different point of view, Peter from Long Island. Hi, Peter.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit of the context on the other side of the aisle. I happen to be a conservative, but I know exactly how Democrats and liberals feel because I felt the same way 4 years ago and the end of the world and what are we going to do? My little tidbit, I got out of my own echo chamber. I got away from constantly listening to the same things over and over again and reinforcing what may or may not be realistic truths, and look for the commonality between people because ultimately we're all Americans. We want the best for the country. We're not always going to agree, but get out of your own echo chamber, try to find the commonality, and when you do that, you can integrate with people based on a very, very strong shared interest, which is the best for the country.
You know,
don't always agree.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, and I one of the things I pride myself on are close friendships I have with people who are conservative. Now, most of the friends that I have who are conservative are very serious conservatives, and they don't like this, much more than I do. And I mean, I have one very close friend who was at one point a direct report to Bill Barr and, was somebody who, Ronald Reagan knew enough to address him by name in the corridors of the White House. So he's not like some kind of amateur conservative, but, this is not his conservatism. And I'm just going to share with you Jennifer Rubin, also a conservative, a Republican, but has now become more of an anti-Trumper than anything else. In her new newsletter, The Contrarian, which I think is going to be pretty good, she says, when a movement or a philosophy utterly changes its tune, it's time to rename it. If you reject capitalism in favor of cronyism and trade in the rule of law for punitive retribution, you do not get to keep calling yourself a conservative. If you free participants in a violent insurrection, you lose the mantle of law and order, once a mainstay of conservatism. The most extreme MAGA members of the Republican Party are the worst defenders, hence the least conservative in the traditional meaning of the word. So let us stop calling MAGA Republicans conservative, authoritarian or reactionary or white Christian nationalists, but not in the least bit conservative. After the rollout of a frighteningly radical agenda that would grossly expand executive power and wreak havoc on our society, let's consign conservative to the linguistic dustbin. There certainly are people who still adhere to the values that once defined Lincoln's Republican Party: fidelity to the Constitution, equal justice under the law, belief in science, and support for free markets, legal immigration, and American leadership in the world. Today, they are called Democrats. So, I agree with her. I don't think this is conservatism the way that I knew it. When I started out as a political reporter, my first legislative session was 1979. And to tell you the truth, the Republicans up at the Connecticut General Assembly in 1979 were the people I trusted over the Democrats in many, many instances. More often than not, I thought the Republicans were honest and telling the truth. The Democrats had way too much power. They were way too entrenched. I don't think this is conservatism. This doesn't look anything like traditional conservatism to me. And to build on Rubin's point, conservatism is usually at least nominally about smaller government. This is about big government. This is about the expansion of government power into areas of life where it has not traditionally gone. And it's about the expansion of power itself. I don't know. I don't know how it fits any traditional conception of conservatism.
I think if I could for a moment, we could be sitting in a Democrat meeting and have the same conversation about this is not liberalism. This is not my Democratic Party, my father's Democratic Party. These were not perfect candidates. They never are. So you make a decision based on the candidate in front of you. I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't agree with everything from my party's platform. But the underlying tie between us all still comes down to we're Americans. We should love each other, should treat each other well. You vote for the best that you can at the moment. And, then you hold your breath just like Republicans did the last 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I agree with you, and I've had that conversation too with other Democrats. In many respects, the way the party has manifested itself from the Clinton era going forward doesn't correspond as closely to what I think are, sort of liberal principles. I mean, in 20, I have to get my years straight. In 2019, I wrote a column for Hearst begging the Democratic Party not to nominate Joe Biden, and for a lot of the reasons that it turned out to be a bad idea, too. So I get that. I do feel that, after a day like yesterday, where so much of it was about punishing enemies, so much of what Trump had to say yesterday was about punishing his enemies, consolidating his hold on power, doing stuff that no Democrat or Republican president has really contemplated before. This whole Schedule F stuff, where you purge as many civil service employees who have to be terminated, if at all, for a cause, and to replace them with political loyalists. This is something a lot of Republicans are very uncomfortable about, including former Republican presidents. So, yeah, I mean, you could say it's the worst it's the best of two really bad options. I get that reaction. I felt a little bit that way myself, but I don't think you can say that this is similar, just a reverse image to what Biden looks like to conservatives. I feel as though what we saw yesterday was the rollout of a whole new idea about government, about maybe creating a kind of government that's very difficult to oppose, that is very difficult to speak out against, and is very difficult to get out of office now that it's in. And that's what scares me. It's not so much his policies, it's his approach to power. And his approach to power is different from what I've seen before.
I think with all due respect, I remember watching the primaries and hearing who was then candidate Biden discuss about should he get elected, that you should search the border from South America, from Latin America, that we're going to let you in. And I was one that said, that's rhetoric. Never can happen. So, again, as a Republican, and again, small government Republican, which we do not have, I feel the same way as what you're expressing, but the dichotomy being you're looking at Trump, and I can't believe what I witnessed with Biden. Yeah. So again, I think if we all wound up in the middle, boy, what a country we would have.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean, I was visiting with friends this weekend down in Rhode Island, and we were friends because we're friends. We're not friends because we're all exactly the same political persuasion. And I was listening to a guy in our group who I know is a Republican. He was talking about how he's a center-right guy. And this is one of the nicest, most caring people I know. And his version of being politically conservative is radically different from what I saw on display yesterday. Yes, I think if we were clustering anywhere around the center, look, I grew up with Republicans like Stu McKinney. I grew up with Republicans who were, or even a guy like Rob Simmons, Nancy Johnson. They were not like this, and I'd be very happy to be having conversations that clustered around a center. But the other thing I would say, and it's sort of another response to Peter is, and it's kind of what Jen Rubin is saying too, I think, is this isn't conservatism. this is something else. This is a very self-serving, self-valorizing set of arguments about this country that are mostly directed at shoring up Trump's power and creating a fictional need for Trump. I mean, his whole idea, right now, the country, as Peter Baker and other journalists have kind of illustrated in the last month or so, the country's in pretty good shape right now. Economy's healthy. Crime is down. Fentanyl overdoses are down. Border crossings are down. I mean, a lot of the things that you would want to have happen have happened. It's been a very healthy country. What you heard about yesterday was a country in decline, verging on collapse. The only way to save the country is through this one guy. And that's his own self-serving picture of America. It's not a realistic picture of America. In fact, what we ought to be doing is making some benchmarks about where we are right now and seeing whether he can even hold them, never mind improve on them. Because if he can't, I mean, that tends to invalidate his claim. But the reason that he used the rhetoric that he used yesterday is because he doesn't want to have that conversation. He doesn't want to have a conversation about whether things got worse under him. So he wants to convince everybody that things are currently really terrible, which is not really an accurate picture of reality. All right, so let's switch back from politics to beauty. Here's Lake Como Dave with some musical advice. Hi, Dave.
Hi there. Am I one of the beautiful people? Is that what you're saying?
You can be one of the beautiful people today, yes.
That would be a first. Anyway, I'm going to take a little different tack today, just knowing how people are feeling so much stress and as of yesterday, and yet they're having to work, make a living. Maybe if they work from home like I do, they have the luxury of being able to listen to music while they're doing some tasks. Normally the kind of music I would recommend to people for whatever reason would be classical stuff, but this is totally different. I've found something that is a really lovely piece of electronic music. I know a lot of people like Brian Eno or Harold Budd, but I've become a fan of Klaus Schulze, German electronic guy who is incredibly prolific. And I'm sure there's many, many of his albums that I'm unaware of, but in the last few decades when he was working on digital stuff, mindful, I guess, of the time limitations, 80-minute limitation of a CD, he cranked out a lot of stuff that was 70-some minutes. And the one that I find just mesmerizing and very helpful to calm me down when I'm working, it's called Continuum. And it's the German spelling, so it's Kontinum. Klaus Schulze, you probably know him, but it's Schulze. It's not something that you sit there with a cup of coffee and listen to with riveted attention. It's much more sort of environmental to go along with something that you're doing. But the music changes very, very, very slowly, sort of a gentle techno beat that comes and goes. There's a lot of really deep textures, and I find it quite beautiful, and I can't stop playing it.
So you just sold it to me with that whole idea of the sort of the slow, small changes. I've gotten very attracted to kind of slightly trance-inducing minimalism stuff. So I will definitely...
Yeah, Steve Reich, for instance,
Yeah. So and some of the stuff coming out of Iceland right now is very much that way, too.
Right.
All right. So thanks for the recommendation. I don't know that we can get it on the air today, but we'll do a Klaus Schulze hit sweep at some point this week. No, we won't. All right, we're going to take a little break here. I've got lots of open space for you on my telephone lines, 888-720-9677. What are you listening to in these troubled times? 888-720-WNPR.
So much concern, but not involved with decisions that are made by you. And we are sick and tired of hearing the song, telling how you are gonna change right from wrong. 'Cause if you really wanna hear our views, you haven't done nothing.
Well, we have to give it a second. Yes, here on WNPR, we play all the requests on our Hit Sweep Hour from 1 to 2. This is Klaus Schulze with Continuum with a K. I kind of like it, though. The song I was trying to think of when I was talking to Dave, I've looked it up on my phone, is Flayed from the City by Johan Johansson. If you pull it up on a streaming service, it might say just Johansson with 2 S's, then colon, Flayed from the City. And it's, you know, John Dankosky and I used to spend a lot of time making fun of each other's musical tastes, mostly me making fun of his musical tastes. But we both enjoy a certain kind of minimalism, a kind of musical minimalism among kind of contemporary classical composers or post-classical contemporary composers or whatever you might want to call them. And I know that he would like that. He would like Flight from the City. Continuum, right now it's a little jellyfishy for me. A little outer space jellyfish. But I mean, I would give it, I give it a 3. It's not bad to dance to. All right. So meanwhile, time to say some things. First of all, one thing to say is we have a little bit more time to go here on Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can call in 888-720-9677. You need not talk about yesterday's inauguration. You can talk about something else. You can talk about how you feel about Klaus Schulze's continuum or something else as well. 888-720-WNPR. Meanwhile, our crack team here begins with the maestro, Dylan Reyes, who just tracked this cut down. He is our technical producer. The producer of today's show is Jonathan McPants, and he's got their screening calls, or in their screening calls, or up in here screaming calls. And that's all I have to say right now, except that we're going to take some more calls. And here we go. Here's Dale. Dale is joining us from New Jersey. We get a lot of New Jersey calls here. Here's Dale from New Jersey. You have the floor, Dale. Can we keep the music on? Is that okay?
Colin.
Do you mind the background music? Does it work for you?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Thanks for taking my call. So I have a long history of alcohol dependency, really bad. And I've struggled with it for a lot of years. And back off and on and so on. And I had a very bad holiday season where I went on a bender. But I'm about 18 days sober again now. And honestly, I use something different. I get online and I use different things to try and keep me from drinking. And honestly, here's the thing. Donald Trump does not drink. And he never has. And that's what's keeping me going, because my revulsion for Donald Trump and everything that he's done, I can't give him that advantage over me as a human being. And I swear to God, I'm not drinking because Donald Trump doesn't drink, and I hate him so much. And I wonder if there are other friends of Bob that are feeling that way.
Let me just first of all say the most important thing, Dale. Congratulations on your 18 days. Thank
you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I really think I'm done this time, Colin. Well, I thought that before, but I really think Trump has done it for me. Thanks, Donald.
It could be, but it's one day at a time, and so, day 19 is its own thing, and so is day 20. But you've done 18 days, and that's hard, and it's important, and yeah, this will be the most unexpected silver lining of the second Trump term that I'll ever hear about. If one guy stays sober, if one person in New Jersey stays sober just out of spite or out of feeling like, they don't want to give Donald Trump any putative advantages, they want to meet him, on a level playing field, that'll be...
That's exactly how I feel.
That'll be a silver lining, and I respect it. But yeah, the main thing is congratulations, man. This is hard stuff. It's some of the hardest stuff that there is in the whole human drama. So I respect the effort you're putting into it.
Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate it.
All right. So on from that, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. And here is Janice from Griswold. Hi, Janice.
Hi, Colin. How you doing?
Just fine.
Hi. I'm just calling to alert your listeners to a YouTube video by a gentleman whose name is Malcolm Vance. He's a 39-year Navy veteran, retired as a Master Chief. He is a well-known and well-respected expert on terrorism and counterterrorism. And he's been on MSNBC. He's been on Adam Poor and Company, and we came across a video that he put up yesterday on an inauguration day that was really a resonant rallying cry to defiance and resistance. He speaks from his background as the descendant of slaves, the descendant of people who fought in World War II, despite prejudice, despite bigotry, and it just really spoke to our hearts. We had been kind of struggling, as a lot of people have, I think, in the yesterday and in the wake of yesterday, and what he had to say really spoke to us. Full disclosure, I have to admit how we found out about him. We got an email this morning from someone we're potters. My husband and I make pottery, and it's historical reproductions of colonial era stuff. So we kind of move in the milieu of American history from the early days. And we, a few years back, actually in the wake of NPR getting flack for reading the Declaration of Independence on the air and tweeting it line by line on Twitter, we began putting quotes from the founders on our pottery. And someone inquired with us this morning about ordering one of our mugs. And when we watched this video, we discovered that this gentleman had a few of our mugs. And so among the quotes that he read from the mug, and this is, again, the Declaration of Independence, "A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people," unquote. So,
well, Janice, this is all cool. I would love to be able to see some of your pottery too.
Steinhagen Pottery, we're online.
See the name of it again?
Steinhagen Pottery.
Steinhagen.
Steinhagen.
Right. Well, no, I'm very excited about that. Gives me also a chance to shout out Susan Gurr from Birch Lane Pottery, who is the Birch Mountain Pottery, Birch Mountain Pottery is the official potter of the Colin McEnroe Show. You sound like an excellent...
you have an official potter?
I have an official potter.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I have official everything. So, but listen, thanks for your call. That really sounds very powerful. Oh, one thing I meant to say, but I just put it on hold. I think she said Malcolm Vance. I think she meant Malcolm Nance. And I think she knows that too. She just misspoke. But all right, so these all look interesting. All of these calls look really interesting. I think we should go to Barbara just because she's building on something, and I will try to get also to Mark and John because they're both interesting as well. All right, Barbara, you have the floor.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you so much. You don't have to drink to act alcoholically.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes.
I just tuned in, so I don't know if anybody had mentioned that. But especially if you come from an alcoholic family, even if you don't drink, the process is still there. The behavior is still there.
Yep. There's the term dry drunk.
That's it.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks for pointing that out, Barbara. I think it's important. I don't mean to speed through you, but let's go quickly over to Mark in Naugatuck, and I want to have time for John and Cromwell too. Hi, Mark.
I just wanted to say when you first started talking over the music for Continuum, I thought, like, man, I got it. Let me get the phone number so I can call up and ask them to do this for the entire show, because it was just like, this is perfect. This is like an episode of the Colin McEnroe Show, directed or produced by David Lynch from Beyond the Grave. That's what it felt like.
That's high praise.
Or maybe David Lynch's spirit had somehow taken over Jonathan's body, and he would end up in the men's room banging his head against the bathroom mirror.
Well, no, he probably does that on a pretty regular basis. But I will say this: one thing that Jonathan McNichol and I have talked about doing. And we haven't ever done it, but we have to do it one of these days, is just do a show that's like as if I were a DJ on a music show and I just play music, and that's about it. I mean, I introduce the stuff, I say a little bit about the songs, and then we just play music. But the other thing is, now that we have Dylan Reyes there, the maestro in the booth, the kind of thing that you're talking about, I mean, that'll happen almost I can almost guarantee you in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll do a show where we take music like this. I'm not going to call it ambient because it clearly isn't. But take music like this that we can. I mean, this is an idea I also, and McPants will back me up about this. About, I don't know, 6 years ago, I had this idea where we would have a DJ who would sit in the booth and put music under what was happening on the show. I wouldn't have anything to do with it. The DJ would decide what kind of music needed to go. So you're just kind of reminding us,
like
Mark.
Snap Judgment Live. That would be great.
Hello, snappers. All right, I'll practice that. I'll practice my Glenn Washington. All right, we have just enough time, I think, to talk to John, although this may be a longer story than we can cram into the 2-minute hole we have here. But John, from Cromwell, you're on the air.
Hi. I never really took AI seriously. Didn't think it really impacted my life. But I write songs among many other things that I do, and I have some people that I work with, and very often I'm more of a lyricist, and so I would write some words and I would give it to this guy who's a really good guitarist, and I would say, put some music to this, and we come up with some really good stuff. But the other day I gave him some words, and I didn't even think they were like my best. And I said, well, think rockabilly when you put music to this. And he put it, just for laughs, he ran it through an AI program. And it came out sounding like the love child of Brian Setzer and the Blasters. It's one of the most incredible pieces of music I've ever heard. And I love it. I can't stop listening to it. And I freaking hate it because a computer wrote it. And I just want to say, anybody in your listening audience who's a musician, just drink some hemlock and burn your guitar. You're out of business.
I don't believe it. First of all, I should say I know the love child of Brian Setzer and the Blasters. His name was Marty Blaster. He took his mother's last name, and he's a nice guy, and he doesn't use AI. No, I mean, I think, and this is obviously another thing that we will devote one or more shows to in the coming year, and that is the question of what can AI do and what can't it do. And I don't doubt for a second that AI can create something that sounds like the love child of Brian Setzer and the Blasters. Can AI produce something sublime and unique and human? Can AI produce something so genuine and so heartfelt that you listen to it and you just want to cry? And obviously that'll vary from audience member to audience member. There's some people who probably can be made to cry. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, what are the limits here? Because all it's doing is going to school on everything we've ever done. And that either means it can't do anything as sublime as what we can do, or it could mean that it can, because it will have ingested so much of us that it will begin to understand substructures that even we're not aware of. And on that heartening note, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for listening. Thanks for participating, those of you who did. And we will do this again very, very soon.